On February 17, 2022, the city of Philadelphia awoke to a chilling discovery. A body burned beyond recognition, hidden in the secluded trails of Fairmount Park. The victim was 20-year-old Naasire Johnson, a young man full of promise. Naasire Johnson, or Nas as he was affectionately called by his friends and family, was the heart of his West Philadelphia community. Born into a loving family, Nas grew up surrounded by the warmth of his mother, his younger siblings, and an extended family who cherished him deeply. He was ambitious, with dreams of making something great out of his life. Though he hadn't fully settled on a career path, Nas was known for his creativity and knack for bringing people together. His mother described him as her rock, someone who was always ready to help, whether it was babysitting his cousins or running errands for his grandmother. Yet, like many young people, Nas kept some parts of his life private. Among these secrets was his relationship with 23-year-old Kylan Pratt, a relationship marked by both passion and peril. Nas and Kylan had been romantically involved for several months, but it was a relationship cloaked in secrecy. Kylan, fearful of societal judgment and the potential fallout of coming out as gay, insisted that their bond remain hidden. This secrecy created tension between them. Nas wanted more openness, a chance to live authentically, but Kylan wasn't ready to take that step. Friends later reported that Nas had expressed frustration with Kylan's reluctance, but he remained patient, hoping things would change. What Nas didn't realize was that Kylan's fears were more than just internal struggles. They were festering into paranoia, resentment, and ultimately, violence. On the evening of February 17, 2022, Nas left his family home in West Philadelphia, telling his mother he was meeting a friend. It seemed like an ordinary night. At approximately 7:30 p.m., an Uber picked him up and took him to Kylan Pratt's residence on Oxford Street in Brewerytown. Neighbors later recalled hearing raised voices coming from Kylan's apartment that night. What began as a simple conversation escalated into a heated argument. In a fit of rage, Kylan retrieved a gun. The confrontation reached its tragic climax when he shot Nas in the neck, killing him instantly. Kylan knew he had to act quickly. The fear of his secret being exposed drove him to extremes. In a desperate attempt to cover his crime, he wrapped Nas's body in a sheet and loaded it into his car. Driving to the remote trails of Fairmount Park, Kylan hoped the darkness of the night and the isolation of the location would provide him the cover he needed. There, he set Nas's body on fire, using accelerant to ensure that no evidence remained. As the flames consumed the remains, Kylan drove away, thinking he had destroyed all traces of his heinous act. On the morning of February 18, 2022, two individuals walking their dog stumbled upon a horrifying sight. Among the trees, on a secluded trail, lay the charred remains of a human body. The fire had reduced much of the remains to ash, making identification impossible. The discovery sent shockwaves through the quiet morning. Police arrived quickly, cordoning off the area and beginning the painstaking task of gathering evidence. Forensic teams scoured the scene, photographing the area and collecting samples. At that moment, no one knew whose body it was or the cruel story behind it. Meanwhile, in West Philadelphia, a family was grappling with their own growing nightmare. Naasire's mother had waited all night for her son to return home. It wasn't like him to stay out without letting someone know. As morning turned to afternoon, her worry deepened. Calls to Nas's phone went unanswered. Her messages remained unread. By midday, her concern turned into full-blown panic. She began calling Nas's friends, hoping someone had seen him or knew where he was. One friend mentioned that Nas had planned to visit someone in Brewerytown the previous night, but beyond that, there were no answers. Desperate for help, Nas's mother contacted the Philadelphia Police Department to report her son missing. Officers took the report and assured her they would investigate, but as the hours passed with no word, her sense of dread only grew. At this point, the police were dealing with two separate incidents. 1. The discovery of the burned body in Fairmount Park. Investigators were working tirelessly to gather clues, but the condition of the body made identification a daunting challenge. Second, the missing person report for Naasire Johnson. Detectives were just beginning to piece together his last known movements, speaking to his family and friends to establish a timeline. For several days, these two cases ran parallel to each other, their connections still unknown. Back in West Philadelphia, Nas's family was taking matters into their own hands. His mother plastered his photo on social media, pleading for information.
Naasire, all I want you to do is just come back home. Please just come back, please. Wherever you are, just come back. Just give me some relief, some comfort. I can't eat, I can't sleep, please.
If anyone has seen my son, please let us know, she wrote in a now heartbreaking Facebook post. The community rallied behind her, sharing the post widely and offering words of support. The connection between the two cases came days later, when DNA analysis was conducted on the charred remains found in Fairmount Park. The results confirmed the family's worst fears. The remains belonged to Naasire Johnson.
Philadelphia police say they have identified the remains discovered on Kelly Drive last week. Investigators say the victim was 20-year-old Naasire Johnson. His grandmother reported him missing 2 weeks ago and held a vigil in Spring Garden to raise awareness about his disappearance on Saturday.
When officers arrived at the Johnson household to share the news, the family's world collapsed. The vibrant, loving young man they had been searching for was gone, his life stolen in an act of unimaginable cruelty. The discovery answered one question but raised many more. Who would do this to Nas? Why was his body burned? What happened during his final hours? The revelation sent ripples of grief and outrage through the community. Friends and neighbors gathered at the family's home, offering their condolences and vowing to seek justice for Nas. Detectives faced a daunting task. The crime scene in Fairmount Park offered few immediate clues, and the extent of the burns made forensic analysis challenging. But a breakthrough came when investigators traced Nas's last known movements using Uber records. The records placed Nas at Kylan Pratt's residence the night he disappeared. When detectives arrived at Kylan's home with a search warrant, they discovered bloodstains on the floor and signs of a hurried cleanup. Further damning evidence came from Kylan's online search history. Investigators uncovered chilling searches like "how to get rid of a body" and "traits of a psychopath." These searches painted a disturbing picture of Kylan's mindset leading up to the murder. Under intense interrogation, Kylan broke down. He admitted to killing Nas, describing the argument, the shooting, and the subsequent attempt to cover up the crime. His motive, he confessed, was fear. Fear of being exposed, of losing control, and of facing judgment.
The family also wanted to make clear that Naasire was murdered not only because he was gay, but also because his killer, who he was in a relationship with, could not accept his own sexual identity.
In September 2024, Kylan stood trial for the murder of Naasire Johnson. The prosecution presented a compelling case, supported by forensic evidence, the confession, and chilling details of the cover-up. The defense attempted to argue that Kylan acted in a moment of panic, but the jury saw through the narrative. The brutality of the crime and the calculated cover-up left no doubt in their minds. On September 30, 2024, Kylan was convicted of first-degree murder, abuse of a corpse, and tampering with evidence. He was sentenced to life in prison without parole, along with additional time for his other charges. Despite the conviction, the case left unanswered questions. Did Kylan show warning signs of violence that were ignored? Could Nas have confided in someone, potentially preventing the tragedy? Naasire Johnson's death is a tragic reminder of the devastating consequences of fear, secrecy, and unchecked emotions. His life was full of potential, yet it was cut short by someone he trusted deeply. As we remember Nas, his story stands as a call for acceptance, understanding, and the courage to live openly and authentically.